But in the meantime, I'm going to, let me find the agenda. Okay. Going to call the meeting to order. We'll say the Pledge of Allegiance, do roll call, and approve the meeting minutes from last month. So, Keith,
Yes,
you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I will. For those who are going to be speaking after me, go ahead and put your stuff on mute, and I can go ahead and say it through, and you can say it to yourself. It makes it more
good idea.
Correct. It sounds better, I think. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. All right.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Jean,
Yes.
can you take us through roll call?
Okay, the roll call for commissioners being present at the meeting. Easy yes when I call your name. Commissioner Chamberlain,
Yes.
Commissioner Moynihan,
Here.
I know she's Commissioner Dotley,
Here.
Commissioner,
yes.
okay. Let's see, Commissioner Moynihan,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
He's not here yet.
He
Okay.
is having computer problems and he is going to just drive over here and get on here.
okay then. Okay, once he gets on, then I'll check him. Commissioner Holmes?
Here.
And yours truly, Commissioner Tyree, present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have quorum, so we can approve the former meeting minutes. Have all the commissioners received a copy of the meeting minutes and had a chance to review the meeting minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, if so, I'd like to make a motion to accept the January 5th meeting minutes.
I second it.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, motion, let's see, Chair Chamberlain. Second, Johnson, Commissioner Johnson. Okay. We had a motion, which was second, to approve the January 2nd, 2021 minutes. Pardon me. Roll call voting. When your name is announced, yes means that you approve the minutes, no means you disapprove. Chair Commissioner Chamberlain.
Yes.
Vice Chair Commissioner Moynihan.
Yes.
Commissioner Dotley.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, I'm waiting on Commissioner Marshall to come. And yours truly, Commissioner Tyree, yes. Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Motion on minutes approved.
Great, thank you. Okay, before we begin the next portion of our meeting, I'm just reading
Larry's
off.
here.
Oh,
Larry's
good.
here.
You're sharing a screen. Thank you. Jean,
Jennifer,
can you make an adjustment in the minutes that Larry Marshall is at the meeting then? Can you,
Jean.
did you hear me, Jean?
Yes, okay, got it.
Jennifer, did you get my text about Dave Perry wanting to go first?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, and as we progress through the agenda.
Yes, I got it. My internet
okay.
keeps going in and out.
Okay. As we progress through the agenda, when appropriate, we'll ask if there's any community input as it relates to specific items on the agenda. And each person wanting to speak will need to raise their hand, at which time we will unmute you and give you 2 minutes to speak, as recognized by myself, the chair, per agenda item. Far East area commissioners will only allow discussion comments that pertain directly to that item, topic, and agenda business. And let's see, I wanted to read a quick statement from the area commission. We would like to offer condolences to the Tucson community and give special thanks to Commissioner Moynihan and former Commissioner Jones Harris for requesting the area commission's assistance in connecting their community to additional resources. This is in regards to the shooting that occurred in the Tucson community on Friday evening. We would like to share what the Far East Area Commission has put into motion for the community. The local block watch, the Tucson Block Watch, will be working with several members of the CARE Coalition to bring a social worker, your city council representative, Stanley Gates, who is not on tonight. He should be on tonight. Your city liaison, Lynne LaCour, community liaison officer Poole, who should be available next week. And we are looking to hold a public Zoom meeting for the community. All details for this meeting will be posted on the Area Commission and Tucson Block Watch website's homepage. And this will enable the community to discuss safety and crime strategies with appropriate entities. It will also enable questions from the community to city leaders on council to ask what their plans are for safety initiatives they will bring to the community. The Far East Area Commission continues to connect resources such as all of these to the neighborhoods within its boundaries. We would ask community members to follow us on the Facebook page and website so that the information they are receiving regarding the Far East Area Commission is correct and firsthand. And with that, we've heard from several of the speakers, and so far at this time, it looks like Wednesday or Thursday of next week at 7 p.m. But once again, all of that information will be posted once we get confirmation from everybody on our commission webpage, and on the Tucson Block Watch will also have it on their main webpage as well. And with that, let me see who's here. We should, I don't see the fire station any. Oh, yes, there you are. Is it Kent? Or is this, can you unmute yourself for?
Today is Bob.
Bob, okay. I'm not sure what your time commitments are tonight. If you can stay on for a little bit longer, if we can get our zonings.
I'm here to follow, so I'll stay on as long as I don't hear a tone behind me.
Okay. Okay, great. Then thank you. What we'll do then is we'll go through our zonings tonight, and then our liaison let us know that there's a couple other people that are going to be on tonight who want to say a couple words. One's our new zone attorney that we have, and then we have Anthony Celebrezze as well. So Larry, can you lead us through CV 20-109, which is 5940 Chantry Drive?
All right, I just spoke to Dave Perry, the attorney for this.
Yeah.
and he's supposed to be coming online in just 1 minute, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Can
It
you
looks like
give us a brief synopsis of this one?
Okay. Yeah, it's very simple. Everyone's familiar with the Bryce Road Chantry area. You have Applebee's, and across the street you have what was the Mexican restaurant. It seems that that Mexican restaurant had about 2 or 3 times the parking area required by code. So what they're doing, they're taking that parking area, and there's enough there to, according to code, include a Moo car wash. Now, entrance to this is going to be off of Chantry. There's no entrance off of Bryce Road, right? This is all part of that complex, which runs into where, you know, like the Waffle House and all that is on that section, okay? Basically, this is going to be the same entity that set up a car wash, you might say, on Main Street, okay? I talked to Dave about the landscaping, and when you look at the Moo car washes, they all have the low-level landscaping with the shrubs and things, okay? All the queuing and everything like that, of course, is going to come through the Chantry and wrap around, you might say, the restaurant that's there. Okay, the restaurant stays, okay? So what they're doing, they're taking that, they're calling it parcel A and parcel B. A is where the restaurant sits, and then B, of course, is where Moo car wash is going to be. All right, Dave, are you online now?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, there you are. Okay. You want to go ahead and pick it up from now here? I think basically when you and I talk, the speed of the Moo car wash is about what, you know, 1 car every 3 minutes.
That's correct.
Okay, so therefore you're not talking about a real overflow of traffic being put back onto Chantry, and therefore the Bryce Road area, because the Bryce Road, of course, is extremely congested, not as congested as other areas, but it is congested during definite times. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Go
ahead, Dave.
Yes, I heard you mention the East Main Street Moo that we were before the commission on several months ago, and this has a similar aspect to it in that we discussed with the Main Street wash that Moo, if there was any concern about stacking, it was self-contained within that property, and this is similar in that. Let's see. Larry, may I share screen? Okay, here we go. I'll run through a couple photos. I know you all know where this is, where the site is located, but the interesting thing about this on the site is the restaurant building does stay. The Moo wash would be in this area, and this has a similar characteristic as the Main Street wash in that if cars stacked outside of the area to be split for the Moo wash, they would overflow on the site. So there isn't it's not like the wash is right next to Chantry Drive or so on, and there's any risk of stacking occurring on Chantry. This is another Moo wash that you're all familiar with. I picked up some site photos. I'll just roll through quickly since you're all familiar with the area. This would be the Chantry entrance. It's the same driveway entrance as is there presently. And then that access goes through to the fuel station to the north that is on the former Meyer entrance. I'll show you something interesting. On when Ruby Tuesday was built, this is the original site plan for the approval of Ruby Tuesday, and a 5,300 square foot restaurant was they built with 194 parking spaces, and that's about 3 times the code requirement. And So again, I'll draw a similarity to Main Street with the Moo Wash being built in the area generally where I'm outlining. It's using a parking lot that was incredibly overbuilt at the time, and Ruby Tuesday stays in compliance with parking also. So relative to the current site plan and Ruby Tuesday, the Moo is in this area that I'm outlining. The restaurant stays, and the parking is maintained for the restaurant also. With the Moo site plan, here's the Moo site plan. This whole parcel is presently zoned C4, and so is much of the area in all directions. The rest, both parcels will become are in the CPD, and the CPD is needed because of the addition of the car wash to the site. But this shows the layout. The Chantry Drive access is the same. The connection to the north is the same, and the Moo Wash oriented perpendicular to Bryce Road. This is the same Moo Wash that you're all familiar with a single bay tunnel with 2 or 3 pay stations where vehicles queue and then enter the wash one at a time. I know we went over this on Main Street, but Moo is an attended wash. It is never open without attendance. There's always a minimum of 2 attendants at the property, and more depending on certain shifts. But it's an attended wash, and not open other than when not open for business other than with attendance there. There is no self-serve aspect to this at all. And
Dave, your operating hours are what, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock?
Yeah, Jeff Gilger, are you on the call?
I am.
Yep.
That is
Okay.
correct. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays.
Yeah. So there's no late hours, and yeah, I think you would all agree Moo does an amazing job with their landscaping package. Their staff on every shift is very attentive to litter and mowing the grass and planting annuals for summer color and that type of thing. This is the prototype for the Moo washes that I know you're familiar with, and that's what's planned. And then, so the request is to rezone to CPD to establish the two sub areas. Let me roll back to the site plan. This area that I'm marking for the Moo would permit the Moo wash subject to this site plan, and then it would permit the separate area for the existing building and restaurant parking. So that's the request.
Any special attention being given to security?
Jeff, how do you handle security?
I mean, our facilities are alarmed. We have site lights that are on at night, and everything's kind of locked up when we close, and open in the morning when we open. And as Dave mentioned, we always have a couple people there, which is part of it is for security reasons to have two attendants at opening and closing for just protection of staff.
Dave,
What is your, go ahead, Jan.
Thank you. Dave, a quick question. So the commercial building that's there right now, how many sites or how many parking spaces are they required to have versus how many parking spaces would be left once Moo occupied the space?
Good question. I can tell you that in just a moment. The 5,300 at the current code, 5,300 square feet is 71 parking spaces. And there will be 84 on the restaurant parcel after the site is split.
Okay, so more than enough. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
My question
Interesting
is,
note
you're
here.
having a,
interesting note here, Jeff, is that this is sitting basically adjacent to the Lindsay campus. It's my understanding that Lindsay is virtually the property owner here as well. So this all makes it all part of the Steve Lindsay campus and operation. Is that sort of a fairly true statement?
Yeah, this is a ground lease for us. They are the landlord, and we have kind of partnered with Lindsay Automotive, hopefully from a retail perspective and from a car wash perspective, but they are the landlord. We're ground leasing. We basically proposed a way to I'll say identify some ground that is not really being utilized, highest and best use, and propose to create some additional cash flow for their operations and investment.
Can you go back and show me your point of entry and exiting, and also where your area is going to be for vacuuming? Because I didn't see that on your screen.
Okay, sure. I'll roll to the site plan. Just a moment. Okay, here is the site plan with the proposed moo, and the access to Chantry is the existing access now for the restaurant.
Okay.
And this is the wash where my cursor is moving. And this area to the west, which is adjacent to the former Meyer, now Lindsay Automotive, large parking field is where the drying equipment is to the west.
Okay, I see.
Vacuum equipment.
Vacuum equipment, sorry. Yep. The dryer's in the wash, isn't it, Jeff?
Correct.
Sorry about that. The vacuum equipment.
Okay, so they're going to come in off of Chantry. Just that one way in and one way out.
There's also cross access with the fuel center to the north.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
That's a right in, right out pork chop that comes in off of Bryce Road that used to access, the former Meyer store, which is now,
Right.
I think, Goodwill or whatever.
Right.
So there's a secondary means of access. That exhibit up there shows it to the north.
Right.
We would anticipate most traffic accessing through Chantry, and the access there to the left of Dave's cursor, right there.
This is the Chantry Drive existing access, but I rolled back to this screen to show the fuel, and there
Absolutely.
is a connection to the north also.
Reason I asked those questions because I know when I go get my vehicle washed off of Broad Street, there's like a battle between getting in the moo and also getting coffee at Starbucks. So that's why I was like, I was just going to be a battle between the restaurant, the fuel point, and now moo. So just take a mental note for you guys when that comes up. It's down the road.
Basically, this is located where the Myers supermarket was. All right, so any type of traffic flow would be substantially less than what that complex had generated in its heyday.
Yeah.
Hopefully, by the time we get Main Street open and get this open, the congestion at Broad Street might be a little less substantial.
I hope so. It's close to my house too. A lot closer.
You'll have lots of options for shorter waits, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions?
Jennifer, is the restaurant currently in operation or not?
No?
It is. It's I forget the name of it's a Mexican restaurant. It is
Very
open.
good.
They are a lease with the Lindsay family as well, and they're aware of our proposal, and I think they got some lease considerations based on what we're doing here. So I hopefully we're going to drive some additional business there to their business. Obviously, COVID has affected the sit-down dining business probably more so than the drive-through business, but hopefully it's going to be a good synergy for non-competing uses, and I think it'll be a win for the Bryce corridor here.
Great.
Is there gonna be a barrier between the restaurant and then Moo Moo?
There is a landscape island that's created between the stacked lanes and the restaurant parking aisle.
Yep.
And
Yep.
right there,
Yep. I see it now. Yep. That's good.
Great.
Good restaurant too, by the way. One's been not like I'm getting any money from this.
Any other questions?
Chair, before we vote, could I have Jeff, could you please give me a spelling on your last name?
It's Gilger.
Gilger?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. This
You're
is for my minutes. Thank you.
Very good.
I have a question to follow up on Keith's example from the Broad Street. My problem has always been that you can come in either one of two ways. One, you can come off of McNaughton and go around and turn right into the Moo Moo, and the other is to go down to the traffic light and turn left. And there's always a problem as to who goes into the line for the Moo Moo first. And isn't that going to also happen if people come in from the Meyer entrance as well as the Chantry?
Well, that occurs more rare than you think. On days like we've had recently where it's sunny and everybody's car is coated in salt and everybody wants a car wash, we kind of run into some traffic control issues. And that only really occurs probably 10 days or less in the winter months only. The 3 lanes really help us with our throughput and stacking. And, there may be a few days in the winter when we have some stacking down to Chantry or stacking up through Fuel, but the staff will basically learn and know when those days are. Hopefully we're going to be opening here in the summer or early fall, and they'll get all that stuff kind of under their belt, so to speak, before we hit the winter months.
Well, every time I've gone to the car wash on Broad Street, that's been a problem. Whether it's been in the fall, not necessarily also in the winter, but it's always been a problem when I go through there.
But Susan, you've also got to keep in mind that Broad Street has 75,000 cars that drive on it every single day.
So I'm just concerned that the problem won't also happen with the 2 entrances into the one off of Bryce. That's all.
That's a good place for it, though.
There's a lot of traffic on Bryce all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, obviously we like to be where people are traveling and people are going and see our business. And I think as we open Main Street and we open this facility, I think hopefully Broad Street will see a little decompression. We have 19 operating Moo Moos now in Central Ohio, and that was our highest volume store. So, and I think a lot of that.
Broad Street.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's attributable to the 75,000 cars that run up and down there every day.
I tell you what, I'd be curious if once this maybe after a half a year or a year, if you wanted to shoot us over any stats, if just out of curiosity's sake, if it did decrease, we would like to know that.
Okay. Yeah, happy to share. Hopefully, Main Street is going to probably have a lot more impact on that than this location. It's probably 1.5 miles as the crow flies, but it's a different corridor of traffic, and we like to be busy. We like high volume. We're geared up for it, and we're excited to continue to expand the brand in the east side here.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Jennifer, this is Commissioner Johnson. I had one question and one comment. My comment is welcome to the neighborhood. I'm in the Greater Southeast Area Commission, so I'm just south of Bryce Road. My comment is, unlike other moo-moos, where you're locating your moo-moo will receive a lot of pedestrian traffic. So just to make you aware that there are people that will be walking back and forth. There are apartments in the area. So just to put your security team on alert. Because this moo-moo, where you're locating it, is going to it will see probably more pedestrians walking back and forth. There are bus stops. So it's probably unlike the other moo-moos. I normally go to the one in Pickerington.
Right.
So my question is, what's the volume of traffic that you get in the Pickerington? Because it seems like it's always crowded also.
Pickerington's another, Pickerington and Broad Street were our first two stores that we opened. Broad Street was our first unit and Pickerington was our second unit. We were lucky and fortunate to pick two great traffic corridors that have grown since we opened. And, you know, Pickerington's a really, really good store. Probably second or third in the portfolio in Central Ohio.
Okay.
And this unit here on Bryce will probably hopefully take some of that Pickerington load by yourself or people like you that live in this area and kind of travel up and down the Bryce Road corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we think it'll be a good location for us.
Okay.
Could we have an update on the volume of all three of those or four of those later in the year?
Sure.
Okay.
And Jeff, when was start of construction on this expected?
Well, I know we got to go to Planning Commission and City Council. I'm guessing that might be through March or April. So maybe we're an April or May start. And we're typically about 4 months in construction. So if we get going, say April 15th, May, June, July, August, I'd be thinking maybe a September 1 opening.
Okay, so maybe early next year, if maybe you'll build one somewhere else in our commission area as well. And get back to us.
Well, we're working on one down on South Hamilton Road near 33 as well. I think that's a different area commission, but yeah.
Is that yours, Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, that's the Greater Southeast. So we welcome you in 2 areas, okay?
Very good.
We'll send our Groveport people over to that one. I'll probably visit 1 or 2 of them. So
hopefully you're all monthly unlimited wash customers.
You know, that would be nice. That might be something that we could give as we'll have to check with our financial.
That's illegal.
It's a great value. Whether we're giving it away or not, it's a great value.
Oh, I'm saying that this might be something that as a commission we could give as door prizes or something, but we would have to check with our financial
right.
on first. But yeah, I think anything to support business in our areas, we appreciate.
And Commissioner Johnson, thank you for mentioning about the pedestrian traffic. I hadn't thought of that, but you're correct about that. This is a little bit of a different location and tend to have a little bit more foot traffic this way.
Yes, and I'm just saying that just for security purposes, opening and closing, because we've been following the stats in our area, and we want to make sure that everybody's safe. So,
one of the good things, or one of the, I'll say, beneficial things, we have a great relationship with law enforcement, really across the whole Central Ohio community, but all of Columbus. Police department washes with us on a fleet program, and so we encourage law enforcement to wash their cars and be at our facilities and kind of know our management teams and all that kind of stuff.
What about the fire trucks?
But we can't wash a fire truck yet, but
Get a battalion in there. Get your battalions.
I think some of the chiefs and some of the other vehicles might wash.
Yeah, get the battalion's vehicle in there.
You got the 20th precinct right around the corner, so when you open up, just make sure we can get some flyers over there or let them know, because there's a police station substation right around the corner from where your location will be.
Well, I would like to make a motion that we approve application Z20-109 to change the current zoning from C4 to CPD.
A second.
Moynihan first. Tyree second.
Okay, let's see. Just a moment. I got to make a note here. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay, we had a motion, which was second, to change Z20-109 to CV20109. Roll call voting. All in favor to approve, yes. Those who disapprove, no. Commissioner Chamberlain,
Yes.
Commissioner Moynihan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dotley,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
yours truly, yes. Commissioner Holmes,
Yes.
motion approved.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. We
Welcome to
look
the
forward to
neighborhood.
being a neighbor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Larry, do you want to introduce the next one? And then Laura, do you want to give Commissioner Marshall that update real quick that you mentioned at the very beginning to me?
Yes. So this morning, maybe 10:15, 10:30, I think, the city considered our request to allow a different parking calculation. The basic premise of it is that dogs don't drive. And so calculating parking like a medical facility, if people go visit our doctors, it didn't really apply to dogs. And so this case was really interesting, the case you're about to hear, because it really showed the gap, right? We did not need 248 parking spaces for dogs. So about 10:30 this morning, we got that word. There's a new formula to calculate. And based on the formula, we are required to have 63 spaces and we have 64. So I do not need a parking variance. The only thing that we are here this evening then for is the special use to have the outdoor dog play areas. So I'm happy to go through the presentation and just zip that down a wee bit for you so you can take a look and see all of that.
Basically, what amounts to is, thank you for the update on that. It's only logical, but when it comes to zoning and codes in the city, things are not always logical because if you're talking about an animal shelter, no, you're not going to have the public draw, okay, that you would otherwise. So what it boils down to, and in my mind, it's always been the question of the variance to allow the outdoor runs and cages, okay? To fill the commissioners in, if they're not familiar, this is the Coil Plus building where Coil Plus basically has closed their operations there, okay? Seeing that it is the ASPCA, you know it's going to be a well-managed and in public view type operation. So you're not going to have a low-grade operation that's going to detract from the area. All right. The one question I had, which is not a part of this variance, and that is, how is the inside of the building going to be set up? Are you going to have like runs, cages, office area, a public area? The other thing is that this is not part of the application, but are you going to be doing euthanization?
Okay. You have anything else? Because I will answer those questions. I was just taking notes.
At this point, no.
Okay, so real quick, it's actually the mission of ASPCA to eliminate
Euthanization.
euthanization, correct. Euthanization, correct. And they've actually got a longer term strategy to have them eliminated. And Bob can answer that. So I've got Bob Hesselbach on the call with us as well. Bob is our direct ASPCA representative. You could talk to a couple of those interior aspects, but long story short, yes, with the no public, there's not, this isn't open, like, is that Fire Station 35? I hear you over there. Bob, do you want to go ahead and just answer just briefly with regard to inside and the work?
Sure, Laura, thanks. And Mr. Chairman, if I may. Yes, we are installing inside the space and basically keeping the interior of the space mostly intact. The administrative area we'd be using for administrative purposes of running the facility, and the warehouse area by and large would be where the animals would be housed. And just a note, this is not actually a shelter. This is a recovery center, or what we call a CRC, which is a Cruelty Recovery Center. And this represents our main hub in the country to accept animals that are involved in basically casework. So it's closely related to law enforcement. We work very closely with those entities to accept these cases in our facility, and we put them through a series of rehabilitation protocols that we work on with the animals. And if I may just expand a little bit on the outside space, the animals are not housed outside in any particular time. We use those outside spaces as part of the rehabilitation process to bring the dogs into, say, an outside area to allow them to some level of play. And we'll go more into this in detail when we look through Laura's presentation. There's a section in the back of the building where there are individual runs. We call them mini rehabilitation centers. And those are animals individually assisted with an individual staff member. So they're not, if you might look at that and say, well, gee, you're adding a bunch of animals outside and they're keeping them out there. That's not the case. They go out there for specifically for rehabilitation purposes.
And basically, like I said, this is outside of the application itself. One of the things that the commission has to be careful about is that when we touch something, the public can possibly come back to us and challenge us when they see like an operation that they feel is not quite acceptable, okay? I wouldn't be surprised if you couldn't get a good group of volunteers from the community to help out if you have openings for volunteers.
What is the minimum age for volunteers?
We're looking for folks that not necessarily have experience in the animal field, but are willing. So it would be probably 18 and older. And yes, and that's a good point. We are looking for volunteers, and there will be volunteer staff that will be recruited likely from the area.
The other question I had in my mind is that it is addressed with relationship to the outdoor runs in the codes, whatever else, and that is the disposal of waste material. How is that going to be addressed in your operation?
As I mentioned before, the animals don't go out like en masse to the outside play areas. So they're
inside.
Oh, you asking for inside or outside?
Inside.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. So the animals are housed inside, yes, and we have a highly diligent staff that manages the cleanliness and hygiene inside the space. So we'll be, and there's a written protocol for this, which we can provide to you if you'd like to read that. But how we handle the animals inside is it's as I said, it's a fairly lengthy process of managing the caged areas that they're in, the bedding and such that they use, as well as the turnover of those areas when we move animals from place to place. So they're kept, as I said, quite clean, and it's a very diligent process.
Larry, I'll go ahead and show you where we're at here. I was going to start just because Dave went first. We're just past the Moo site that Dave just presented. I'll go right there and show you the requirement that you're asking about, Larry, is the storage of waste materials, and it's 100 feet from residentially zoned property. And we are not 100 feet. We are farther than 100 feet from the closest nearby residential property. So we comply there. That would be a horrible thing to have to ask for a variance for. And when we are next door, typically it just gets stored inside of a building. So, but we're actually line to line, straight line, more than 180 feet from any residential property.
Yeah, one of the people that's sitting at this meeting right now, if this would directly affect, would be Ms. LaCour, because this is around the corner from the 20 precinct and her office.
Yes.
So I'm sure that if there is improper disposal of waste material, she'll be the first one to smell it. So.
Well, yes. So I don't know, but I'll just show you real quickly, because for the benefit of folks who are wondering where outside, this is the existing facility. And as Bob mentioned, the work on the inside, the good news about having an older space to redevelop is it's got a lot of space and it has certain office areas already inside. You know that the area zoning, I know you're more familiar, it's your neighborhood, just around the corner from where we usually meet. And then it's a large swath of the old manufacturing. So the site's got the truck traffic that comes in. It's got all of the auto dealers to the east. Immediately south of us is a zoned parking lot. That's the gray area that you see here. And then on the other side are the apartments. So because we've cut off the parking variance for tonight, I'm just skipping through our points here. But one, you know who ASPCA is. We're not planning on changing the building. Bob just mentioned just some of the operational aspects and the justification for even the reduction to the parking that we don't need, and then the site improvements. So what I'd like to do is we're just going to skip ahead real quick to the site plan to show you. So this is the black and white so that you can more clearly see what's going on here. All of this is an existing building. There's a building structure here that we're going to take out. And so I've got this in two views so that everyone can see it. Most of this parking is already there. To the east side here, and I'm going to flip back and forth, you'll be able to see on the aerial, this is actually dedicated truck and trailer parking. So we have space to organize the site and develop the areas specifically for the outdoor activities for the animals. So here is where we get that. Here's what it ends up as.
Well, you mentioned, parking, et cetera. You're going to have vehicles.
3 to 5 max. Correct. And we expect 3 to 5 trucks or deliveries each week. That's it.
All right.
So what you are looking at here, what I just tried to depict, a wee little bit of color, is here. These are the outdoor areas. And here in the back, the outdoor areas. And then here are some of the more confined areas to leave them outside. We've got lots of best practices around, making sure that the rehabilitation of the animals gets that interaction, the fitness idea of the dogs and trying to keep them outdoors for those activities. But again, there's no outdoor sleeping. There's no outdoor, they're not left out unattended. Now there's
strictly the runs.
Yes, here, well, runs. So runs, isn't that an interesting word, right? Because there's outdoor play and they're facilitated and there's a managed ratio for them. So it's very rare that dogs are just left out by themselves, right? And so there's a couple different kinds. So sometimes they're more behavioral and they're specifically on a lower ratio with people being trained. And then sometimes there's more activity and group play. So there'd be a few more. So those areas that you see outlined here in yellow are those areas. Here's one, and here are the other two for the outdoor activity. Now there's one other thing I want to tell you about why I've got them here with the yellow, and you can see here the best practices from the SPC. I mean, Larry, you mentioned it, well-managed and experienced. the idea is care for the animals. So that's why it's important for them to be outside, not to equate them to children, but right? I sent mine out today for some fresh air. So one of the best practice features are the acoustic fences. And, you do not see these. This is my, I don't know, 10th case in 10, 15 years for either kennel, shelter, veterinary, all of those different components. And it's this is the top of the line in terms of area fencing that is acoustic. So it reduces noise.
So does it absorb? It absorbs the noise?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's super top of the line, right? And so well managed, best practices with regard to ratios, and then this is an additional step. So this is absolutely top of the line, best animal care, best planning. So that's what I was hoping to depict here, just with the yellow, so you could see that.
So that would be a good noise abatement in regards to the tennis courts.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's important to note there's a couple of factors that I would say. First is noise versus sound, right? So the activity level, people call sound noise. And it's really just something new when you hear it, right? It's going to be extremely rare for you to hear a particular animal, a dog bark and bark and bark and bark and go on. That's not consistent with the level of care and the attention that's given to animals, right? So it's not like a backyard where somebody leaves for the day and their dog is in the backyard. That's just not that's not functionally how these things operate. But to the extent that there's the introduction of new sound to this area, I mean, you guys know it as well as I do. I've done a bunch of the zonings throughout the Chantry development. There's already truck traffic, there's freeway noise. So there might be a new sound in the neighborhood, but the idea of noise that rises to the level of anything, it's just inconsistent with the care of the animals. This is super top of the line best practices, just, functionally how they operate, which is exciting.
What type of fencing is used around the outdoor play area?
Same thing.
And how high are those?
6 feet high.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing to note is the site, obviously existing building, it's got some nice mature trees. It's got the setback with the mounds that are along Alshire. There's existing grassed setback and existing trees to the south. So all of those will be maintained. This is a really neat adaptive reuse. And really just a wee bit of shoring up, right, and restriping so that we can make better use of the parking area for our needs. And in short, that is the presentation, because once we were able to work down the parking variance, this is it.
Is the outdoor play yards, are this going to remain concrete?
They will. Now, an interesting thing in speaking with the gentleman, the architect, and Bob can elaborate as well, they do certain paint treatments so that they are not hot, right? So Bob, and is there some more to describe about that? But it's not heat resistant, but reflective and doesn't absorb.
Yeah, it's a solar reflective type of paint, and you would think that maybe that's counterintuitive that you'd have the animals on a surface like that, but with that surfacing that we'll put on here, it'll allow the dogs to be able to be comfortably run on that outside space.
Solar reflective, good place to go get a suntan, like the water reflects back up. How many employees?
So we're at maximum is 50, operationally speaking, about 50. And so, but that's not at any time, that's total, right? So at any time between 20 and 30 folks, and that's why, go ahead, Bob. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I heard a noise. I thought that was Bob chiming in. So yeah, operationally, and that's why we can accommodate even the idea of every employee we have with, the 10 or so volunteers that would be common with the, facility of this size. We still had plenty of parking.
Parking area.
Yes.
You're also bringing 20 to 30 employees to the community, which we thank you for.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Good. Can I ask, I can't remember if this was already asked or not, but what is the maximum amount of dogs that you hold there?
So I think our maximum is a big number, is like 200 in the event of a larger, need. But I think the average is going to be 130 to 150.
Okay, so sometimes like I think with like natural disasters that occur, and you could if you find an animal and you bring it to a facility, so you would have the ability to maybe house more dogs there at one point if something occurred.
That's a really good example. Yes.
Okay.
You're talking about small animals. Do you have any large animal capacity?
I think this is just dogs and cats.
It's mostly dogs, some cats. We're not looking at horses or anything like that. It's just those two.
No outside area to take care of. Right.
Well, we are a community that absolutely loves our animals, and so that is a really, really good fit for us. And I am sure that you will pull a lot of volunteers from our community. I'm the coordinator for the Tusing Block Watch and community leader for the Tusing area. So if you get back in touch with the area commission, when it comes time, we can absolutely push the information out to the community for you.
Yeah, Bob, what you can't see is the 4 cats laying on the couch behind her right now.
Those are the bottle babies.
Okay.
Also, a quick note, I just received information. So we partner with the Greater Southeast Area Commission and the Mid-East Area Commission, and with Department of Recs and Parks with the City of Columbus, and helping with food giveaways in the area. And one of the things they're always they actually just brought to our attention, they said that they're always in short supply of food for animals. And I hadn't actually given it a thought when we've done all of our food giveaways these last 7-8 months, that's one thing that we didn't take into account. But we would love in the future, if you had any sort of capacity to help with that, we would love to partner with you on that as well.
Laura and Lynn, something I was thinking about, and that is that there's a juvenile restorative justice program where teenagers are to do community service. And I was wondering if possibly that'd be something that would fit into what you could do out of this facility to assist in the community. Lynn, what do you think of that idea? Lynn?
Well, I'll just wait till it gets built first, and then we can broach. I do want to ask a question about, but once it gets built, I think there might be some good opportunities. Has the tennis court, the tennis court owner seen these plans also?
I have not received any questions, but I do know that the Scarborough Tennis Club is on our list for the distribution. So they've gotten it twice now.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And they probably, Larry, were they included in the postcards?
They're on the list that she's talking about, the label list.
Yes, sir.
And they got it, like you said, 2 times.
Okay.
And since you,
They're on the label list. I'm excited, guys.
Any other questions?
Hey, Laura, I have one last question. My name's Addie Rd. I'm another community leader over here in the southeast Denver-Tustin area. This may have been answered. I was having connectivity issues. Your animals are going to come from animals in need in the area, correct?
Actually, they could come from a variety of different places. ASPCA is a national organization. So there's a chance that they will come locally and that they will come regionally and otherwise.
Okay, but I mean, but if we found a dog in the area that needed the help, you would be somebody that we could now come to?
So, Bob will have to talk about that specifically, what they do, because it's not a open for adoption facility. It's really a care and recovery center. But I would imagine, I can't imagine that they turn it away, right?
No,
No,
okay.
what we probably would do in that case is work with local partners who we do work with on individual bases like that. As Laura pointed out, it's taking in cases that are kind of national related or even local, depending on what the issue is, but not so much from an individual perspective for like a retail or shelter type of facility. So we certainly wouldn't turn anyone away.
Right.
But I think we'd work with other partners that we have in the area.
And one thing I can point out, Ms. Red, is if you're in the Gender Road corridor, at the corner of Gender Road and Wright is Gigi's Center for Dogs. It's a partnership between George Skestos Homewood Corporation and Columbus Humane. And so they've got capacity. I feel like that number is either 50 or 65. I'm sorry, it was 3 or 4 years ago when we did that, but that was no pun intended, pet project of Mr. Skestos. And so they're a local facility that is one of those types of partner folks. They're actually there to take them on the front line for the training until they have space somewhere else. So they fit into the system of how they house, take care of immediate needs, and then deal with the, medical and or behavioral needs of the dogs. So that's a place that you could take dogs also in the neighborhood.
I feel like I'm the person that gets called whenever there's one running around, I just had some 17-year-old pointer that they found not too long ago.
Yeah.
So it's just
So
nice to know
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the BZA 20-132.
I second.
Wait a minute. Okay, so
I have Holmes made a motion. Who's second?
Holmes first.
Yep.
And who was second? Johnson?
Commissioner Johnson and I were tied on that one, so she can have it.
Okay.
I got the last one.
Johnson second.
Chair, I do want to clarify that what we're voting on is strictly about what's in the application that's in for the animal runs and play areas. Okay. The other was very informative, but that is not the application because according to zoning and code, they're eligible.
Okay.
And if you ever lower the age of volunteers, I have a Girl Scout troop that would be more than happy to come in there, and they'll even scrape poop for you.
Good to know. Good to know.
Okay.
We'll make a
Gene,
note of that.
okay, Gene, let's get on to the roll call.
Okay, then. We had a motion with your second to approve ZA 20-132. Roll call voting. All commissioners who approve, yes. Those who disapprove, no vote. Commissioner Chamberlain,
Yes.
Commissioner Moynihan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dotley,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
and yours truly, yes. Commissioner Holmes,
Yes.
motion approved.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. And we'll definitely circle back when up and running.
Thank you.
Welcome to the
Thank
neighborhood.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
When do you anticipate it up and running?
Well, we'd like to be in a position to move in early part of summer, July, that time frame. So we want to move quickly on this.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are running really late with our agenda. Next, oh, there you are. Anthony, you are up for speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Tony Celebrezze. I'm the Assistant Director of the City Building and Zoning Department, and I'm here to talk about zoning, the exciting zoning. Let me pull up a screen here and share my screen with you all.
Commissioners, can you mute while he gives his presentation? It should last for about 15 minutes and I have some time for questions.
Can everybody see that? Excellent. So about a year ago, the the mayor came to Department of Development and Department of Board of Building and Zoning Services because he felt that the zoning code wasn't reflecting the forms and the way that that development was occurring in the city. He also had some concerns that we were consistently using variances in a large number. And, you know, you all are part of the zoning process with a lot of the variance reviews, and I know a lot of areas have seen huge increase in the last 3 or 4 years of variances. And we all know zoning is supposed to, you know, one, minimize conflict between users, but also regulate where building placement is, parking lots, parking restrictions, that kind of thing. But, you know, zoning has also been able to be used to encourage and facilitate investment and help neighborhoods see and prosper. And that's happened in some of our neighborhoods. But unfortunately, also zoning over the years, whether on purpose or by accident, you know, through restrictive covenants and redlining, has not always benefited all of our neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, it has been to the detriment of many of our neighborhoods that have not enjoyed the great opportunities that the city has experienced in the last decade. So with that, the mayor gave us the charge of how do we look at and how do we do an assessment on our zoning code. And as you see here, the code dates from the 1950s. And obviously development standards, development interest, and appetite for the public was much different 70 years ago than it is today. And so he directed us, and Kevin Wheeler from Department of Development and myself are leading this project. To put a little bit of context together for folks, people that have been around Columbus for a while know that in the 50s and 60s, we had a very aggressive annexation policy. The city grew tremendously during those years. But then as the cost of installing infrastructure grew, also with a lot of current infill parcels not being utilized to their best ability, that annexation policy fell off. And we still do it, but is nowhere near to what they did in the 50s and 60s. Now, as you can see from the second chart, our population since then continues to grow. And even with the pandemic, it continues to grow. And by the end of this decade, we will have more than 1 million people in the city of Columbus within our 220 square miles, let alone the Central Ohio, which is continuing to grow also. So that's part of the reason we've got to figure out where are we going to put another, 500,000 people in the next 10 years. Right now we've got 900,000 individuals in our city, and we keep growing. There is some infill and redevelopment going on, but we need to ensure that development is done right, is done to the benefit of everybody. At the same time, we've got to worry about the continued rising costs of housing. To build a residential unit in the city continues to go up every year. And that's not only cost of materials, but we have a shortage on skilled tradespeople to actually build the homes. And because of that, and because of the number of years, we've been in a deficit of creating residential units. We do have a huge deficit, and so supply and demand has kicked in, and we don't have the supply nearly enough to handle what the demand is from the population, and thus the rents keep rising, purchase costs keep rising. We also got our transportation options need to be examined, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But bottom line is there's a demand for multifamily and smaller homes. There's a whole new generation that has many different ideas about how they want to live, where they want to live, that are different from my personal, but they're entitled to their interest, and their interest in multifamily and smaller housing lots is fueling a lot of the development that is going on within our neighborhoods. those same generations want the walkable neighborhoods. And so it is up to us as a city to figure out how to help all the neighborhoods benefit from this pressure that we're seeing of people wanting to move here, having more jobs here. So it kind of leads us to some of the questions that are kind of driving our project. Overarching was, how are we going to grow? Where are people going to live and work and play? How are they going to get around? What are our neighborhoods going to look like? And how do we build opportunity for all residents, not just cherry-picked neighborhoods that get to do really well while another neighborhood sees very little in the way of growth. And there are a number of different projects, going on, from Link Us, dealing with transportation corridors, regional housing study. Laid on top of all of this is the mayor's commitment to sustainability and trying to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and worry about the environmental impact also at the same time that we're trying to grow and continue to grow and be a successful city. So how does zoning fit into that? That is our challenge of figuring out how do we help the city grow in the right way. There's a number of different areas that we have to consider. I've talked about a lot of these. One of the things that has been growing across the country are job centers along travel corridors, which spreads out jobs in a larger area and allows for better economics on a more smaller basis along those travel corridors. I mentioned about the reliance on variances, and then we've got dozens of overlays, special districts. How can we make the zoning code more predictable, more consistent, and at the same time ensure there's a public review process and that our neighborhoods benefit but do not encounter massive amounts of change, because that's not what this study should be about. So the project itself, the zoning code assessment, is broken into two phases. First phase that we're in right now is more of a technical review of the zoning code, looking at the different processes that we use, doing some policy assessment. What is the policy of this administration and how we want to develop? Then it's also examining the stakeholder engagement, and not only how area commissions and civic groups participate, but also reaching out and ensuring in phase one we hear from diverse opinions from across the city. And then ultimately what's going to happen in phase one, we'll get a recommended update strategy. We brought on a consultant that has done zoning code reviews in a number of large cities, including LA and Milwaukee and St. Louis. They also, it's Lisa Wise Consulting. They also were involved with Westerville when Westerville did some rezoning along their main commercial corridor through the middle of the town. So the key for the phase one is stakeholder engagement and getting getting opinions and thoughts and ideas and what's working, what's not working from as many people as possible. We've already had, the consultant has had close to 90 interviews with city leaders, with area commission chairs, with business leaders, and then members of the religious community and other groups to find out what their thoughts are on the zoning code and how are we doing. We've got further interviews going on that Kevin Wheeler and I will be working on, but also we have posted a website that has a lot of information on it. The website will be listed at the end of this. But more importantly, and I don't know, Jennifer, I think you've seen it, we have a survey that we're asking people to take 9 or 10 minutes and complete it and give us your thoughts and your ideas. And that's only been up for 7 days, and we've gotten over 1,000 responses. I'd like to see 4,000 responses by the end of February. because the more information we can gather, the better the final product of this zoning code rewrite, the better the end product will be to address issues across the city. So now phase one that we're in is going to be completed sometime this summer. And I'm sure I'm going to be back to talk about different things as we continue forward on this project before this summer. So don't think I'm one and done here. I'm going to be back. You get to see my pretty face more to talk about this stuff. But when we shift into phase two, which will be towards the end of this year, that's going to be a multi-year process. We're looking at 18 to 24 months to actually do that rewrite, because part of the main part of that is engaging the community. So myself and Kevin and a few others will be coming out, bringing ideas and thoughts to area commissions and civic groups, getting feedback, taking those back, and then seeing what we can do to make things work better, making the final product better. And so it is going to mean a lot of me popping into meetings with an invite, of course, but bringing ideas to you all, and then getting your feedback, and just as importantly, getting ideas from you all and working through that. Like I said, we're trying to engage as many people as possible across the city, because the more we can engage, the better the end product is going to be. So with that, Jennifer, I will email you this slide deck. Please feel free to share it with anybody and everybody. And if you need me to send you the link again for the survey, again, sharing that out, putting it out on social media, anywhere we can get it would be fantastic. And real quick, before I go to any questions, if there are any, I know that I've done a number of these presentations last week. Use my email and use my phone number, because a lot of times people came up with a lot of questions the day after they hear me. Since this is kind of the first time hearing this presentation, take some time, go through the slide deck, and email me, call me, whatever you want. If you want me to come back to answer questions, I can do that also. So with that, if there's some questions, Madam Chair, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
We've posted the survey on our page. Before I took the survey, I wanted to wait until you came, because I've got a couple of questions right off the bat.
Great.
Okay, so first
Wonderful.
question is, a couple years ago, we spent a lot of time as a commission, probably upwards to a good year, analyzing the C2P2 plan. And I would categorize that as not looking at changing up the zoning, but in a sense, looking at the density levels. And we worked really hard to analyze the whole entire area. And lots of thanks to the many hours that our commissioners put in on this, because it was a long process. But we did take a look at all the density levels across our whole commission area, and made changes, some that were compatible with what the city wanted, and some were more of what we had pushed as a commission. This isn't looking per se at density level increases or decreases, and I would always assume that we're looking on the increase side rather than decrease at this point. This is more of a matter of looking at what's maybe commercial and what should be residential versus what's industrial versus what's those type of changes. Is that correct?
Yeah, first off, we're not going to come out and do blanket rezonings. That's not what this is about. This is about figuring out, making things as consistent as possible. We've got some development standards that probably are archaic and need to go away. We also, you hear all this discussion about multi-use. Mm-hmm. We don't have a zoning district that allows multi-use. We have to vary everything on that. So we've got to figure out what is, as a community, what does multi-use mean? And then define it and then figure out where we're going to allow it. Obviously density is always important to people. You're not going to take a single family residential neighborhood and all of a sudden upzone it to apartments or something like that, or to a much higher density. But there is no doubt that density is going to play an issue in some of the decisions that we make. The other part of it is we have a lot of parcels that are underutilized in our city, not just along corridors, but in other areas. And so how do we encourage development of those parcels so that we can, if they're residential, get residential units on them. If they're commercial, how do we find jobs that can support putting an commercial operation on there? So these are all things, and I need you all to keep us honest to make sure that we keep that type of worries in mind. And I don't doubt you will, but
Yes, we
I
will.
want to put it out there because that's something that we all live in a lot of we've got some really diverse, different neighborhoods in our city, and we've got to figure out how to keep the integrity of those and the communities, vibrant communities in those. At the same time, we continue to have more people moving into the area, so we've got to figure out how do we balance the two and figure out how do we handle this as a city.
Okay, my other major question that I have is you always hear that right now that we're expected to have so much more residential development occur than what's occurring right now, and part of that is due, or they say a large part of that is due to the constrictive, cumbersome, expensive process of application and zoning construction. So what, as far as looking at this rezoning survey, what is being done to address that or change that? Is there anything, or is that more legislative?
Well, ultimately, we will make a recommendation to council. We'll write changes to the code, recommend that to council, and Councilmember Tyson and Councilmember Remy will have public hearing on it as a zoning committee and hear feedback. But long before it gets to that point, hopefully we've worked with folks throughout the city to come up with ideas. We do have a challenging system. However, I like our system in that it makes neighborhoods involved in decisions that are going to affect them. As some of you that have been to some of our zoning committee or zoning trainings, you've heard me say that the city's got a different filter than the area commissions do. And that's totally fine. You all live there, it's going to impact you all. We're looking at it from a different perspective, and that's okay. That's how we hopefully get to a place where development is occurring that is not detrimental to the neighborhood, that it maybe is beneficial and is beneficial to the city. So it's going to take a lot of different ideas, a lot of different rewrites, and a lot of discussions to figure out how do we get a better code that still makes sure that that there's a code that people understand why it's there. I'm never going to say that everybody's going to like it, because they won't, and people don't like the code now. So, but that we can understand why we have a code and why we have what we have in it. And then if we need to vary it, what does that process look like to make it predictable and make it timely, and at the same time, weighing the interests of the neighborhood versus the interests of the applicant.
Okay, and then my last question is, would you be able to provide us with, you mentioned at the very start of your presentation that certain areas of the city have more variances occurring within their districts than others. Do you have any type of statistics that you could provide to us to see what the variance rate is in the Far East versus other areas? And then not only do you have that as a number, but do you have that as a map?
I can most likely pull the variances because they appear, the area commission's names appear in the descriptions. I can also show you I also do have a chart that's citywide or a pie graph with what is, what are the different variances, and also there's about a dozen codes that are the regulars, with the top one being parking requirements. I mean, we have the same parking requirements that somebody building in your neighborhood or a commercial development has the same parking ratio that somebody in my neighborhood at just outside of Victorian Village has for a commercial development. Doesn't work. So, and we've done, again, we're back to tweaking things. We did the Short North parking area, which cut the numbers in half. We're doing something like that in Franklinton right now. But overall, we've got to figure out how do we make this work better instead of doing variances and tweaking things. Do we need to have different parking ratios based upon some sort of boundary? But I will get you. I know that Kevin and I did some research early on, and we've got some pie charts that I can send to you and walk through if the commission would like to see that.
I definitely would like to see that, and maybe it doesn't have to be during this time when you're looking at the zoning, trying to get in the zoning survey information in, but we would definitely like to have you come back out, and I would like to see that information, maybe just not only for the Far East, but for the whole greater East Sides. That would include the greater Southeast and the Mid-East area as well, since we tend to all kind of look at ourselves all together oftentimes.
Well, if I'm gonna write a script to separate those out, I'll just do it for everybody.
Okay.
Give me more data to share with folks.
Thank you.
You got it.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
I do have a
welcome.
question for you. Over the past 1 year, I think COVID has redefined the term cottage industry, because such as myself, the office I work out of is out in Dublin, but since March, I have worked out of my home office. And I don't know how this is being taken into consideration by the city for accommodating individuals such as myself. All right. If you're looking at employment centers, but my employment center is my back bedroom. So I just thought
I understand that. What we're looking at, and the hope, I think, for everybody is that COVID will slowly fade into the background as people get vaccinated and get a level of immunity to it, and we go back to we are going to go back at some point with offices and so forth. Maybe it will be different, but what we're talking about are along the major thoroughfares that have transportation, public transportation, so forth. How do you create job centers along those? How do you allow for a limited number of offices or things like that people can end up working from? From your standpoint, with people doing home-based businesses, we generally are very liberal when it comes to looking at that. The only thing we don't that we frown upon is foot traffic to somebody's house on a very regular basis, or customers coming there. You working as an attorney or working as whatever, a friend of mine's HR, she does it from her living room couch every day. But she doesn't have clients coming in. Hers is all remote. Has been even before COVID. So we've got to figure out, like I said, how do we take, we've got a lot of jobs downtown. How do we add more jobs throughout the city so that people don't have to, don't have to travel across town to get to their job. So how do we make those opportunities available? So, I don't know if that quite fully answered your question or not, but.
Yeah, basically, according to the code, you can't hang a placard outside or in your window.
That's a result of residential zoning for it. So although there are grandfathered or what they call non-conforming situations throughout the city, but that starts to go back to balancing, your rights as an individual homeowner that may be having a business there with the neighbors' rights to live on a residential street without commercial signs. So.
Thank you.
Other commissioners? If not, I have another question.
Yes,
I probably have a ton of questions. In regards to surrounding cities, the city of Reynoldsburg, I want to say over the last year, maybe year and a half, have looked to revamp their zoning as well. And for a period of time, they actually had no zoning, like for a couple of months put in place until they redid theirs.
Just fade it out, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are you, is the city of Columbus looking at other cities that are congruent to it to see where we fit in? Because oftentimes we're right up, along the border of Reynoldsburg, up against Whitehall, up against Pickerington, up against, Pataskala.
We do take a look at that, and we try to have things match up. And we have, if you look in far northeast and southwest Columbus, we have lots of township islands, as I call them, because of that annexation. So we've got all these townships, especially West Broad is a great example. When I was talking with the far west folks, it is a challenge trying to work with other municipalities and how do they do their zoning. And that's something that Kevin and I have started to discuss, because in some of these meetings, people have brought up that they've got these township pieces or other municipalities within the city or right against them. And how do we match up with, how can we match up with them? Can we even match up with what they want? They've got different mindsets than we do, obviously, being a suburb versus an anchor city. But generally speaking, on the major thoroughfares, you would think that they're going to have a lot of commercial, as will we. So there is going to be some discussion as we start getting into this a little further to try to figure out. And I would encourage that, if that's a concern with folks, make sure you put that in that survey so that the whole team that reviews them can see that and think about that.
Okay, and then can I, if I can lead this into one other piece of new business that I was going to talk about a little bit later on, and that is the east-west corridor. So the link that we were just involved, I've been involved in that, at least on the eastern side. I was involved in the Whitehall and the Reynoldsburg discussions of the East Corridor. And Daryl and myself just attended the East-West Corridor. And it looks like as far as west from Franklinton all the way now, either it's gonna be going straight down Broad Street all the way to Pataskala, or it'll jog off onto East Main Street and go up to Pataskala. But that corridor right there, originally at the 2050 MORPC concept, was talking about whatever corridor that it was picked of it potentially and most likely having 1 million people on that corridor itself. And if that's the case, and if the new projections that they talked about at this last meeting of having within 30 years of having 3 million people, which are, I think, looked more than what your chart showed. If that's the case, are we looking at, is the city specifically looking at those corridors that were laid out in that 2050 concept? Are you looking at those corridors and the impact of the zoning in those corridors specifically? Because that's going to be huge, especially if I mean, we're not looking at, as far as they told us, a light rail system anymore. Originally that was on the table. That's off the table. It seems to be off the table now. More of a rapid bus transit. But still, that those corridors are going to be a huge density consideration, and I don't know if that's something that is being really looked at by you guys.
It is something we have to look at, because as you know, those corridors are going to carry a lot more of the preponderance of the population that's going to move here in the next 10 to 20 years. While, you know, there are still areas throughout the city that, you know, vacant lots are still 20 or 30% of the lots, and so for the single family, and those need to get infilled to make those neighborhoods whole, and to make those good, strong neighborhoods. But those transit corridors, the broad streets, you know, the high streets, and the other ones that they up Cleveland Avenue, and then the one up Northwest, those are going to see greater density, because that's where the interest at this current time, with the younger kids and younger folks, I should say, are showing more interest in living in that type of urban scenario than what would be considered more of a suburban model, with the house on the lot and a garage in front or back or side. They're more into the multi-unit living. So, and I'm sure some of that is a result of being kids and living through the recession in 2008 and 2009, and the amount of home ownership that was lost to how many families lost their homes because of that. And so I'm sure that's a huge piece that plays into their mindset of liking either being rentals or smaller units where they don't have as many costs of maintenance and so forth. So.
Okay. Daryl, do you have any questions? Because you attended the meeting with me. Do you have any questions for Tony? Oh, you're on mute.
Golly, you actually got me muted. No, you covered it well, especially when we're talking about the light rail won't be there. And that's the concern, because we're really going to have a lot of density then that's going to be coming in. And also not only density, but the concern is where those stops are going to be, because they're not going to be every block. And that's going to make a big difference too, you know, so yeah. Which this start, you know, it's just started in this, but at least we're on the way.
Yeah, and you know, it's nice that not only have Morpsey that is a innovative player, but that Coda is working hand in glove with the city and Morpsey and the larger region. You know, as they always say, the Columbus way, trying to work together to come up with the solutions. So, like I said, not everybody's going to be happy with what we do, but hopefully we can get it as close to right as possible.
I agree.
Thanks.
And I think also they're listening to us about maybe light rail. They may come back with that. Everybody was talking about it, so we can hope.
From the fire station, do you have any questions of Anthony? Because your land that was there, we fought for. I know the commission and the east side fought for a long time to get your fire station actually put in over there to help reduce the really the enormous amount of load that was on Station 5. Really, I think that was a lot. That was a piece of land that was bought a long time ago and finally had the funding to be put on it. But I didn't know if you had any questions of Tony, given everything that you guys experienced and the weight that you had to be put on that land.
I think the one thing that we know is that there's going to be growth, and it doesn't matter to us how they do it or the direction in which they do it. So we just expect it, and whether it's commercial or residential, the division is going to grow the way that the city grows, and whatever it is that's demanded, whether we add a rescue truck or a ladder truck out here or a second medic, or however it is that the city determines it's going to be most efficient to use the resources, we're basically sort of reactive versus proactive. So,
well, now's the time to be proactive rather than reactive. And instead of having a situation where, you know, the calls for service out of 5 were, I can't remember what they were, 12, 13 minutes or so. And now being able to reduce that because of Station 35, that I know that's probably something that we have to, that the commission needs to keep in mind, is our placement of the essential city services, our fire stations and our police substations, and make sure that they're adequate and that we definitely have them in our area.
Agreed.
Bob, how many trucks you have out there in 35?
Currently, we have an engine and a medic only.
Y'all have a battalion?
Well, we are contained within Battalion 6, but the battalion chief is located at a different station, a little bit closer into town, where he can reach all 5 stations in Battalion 6 most efficiently.
Okay. A little background about myself. I'm prior military, law enforcement, so I'm kind of entwined with fire as well. So
okay, wow. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Jennifer, I have a question. Also, since we have a representative from Station 35, it's just something that I'm thinking if we could maybe get a feel for, since you're talking about being proactive. We know the number of runs that the city has and the number of runs per station. Is there any way we can come up with a projection, since we know that there's going to be a great population increase? And then we have that information. I think Tony just talked about it. And also I know Marshall has that information. Is there any way we can come up with a proportion to get an idea as to what Engine 35 can expect as a result, how many proportion of runs they can expect as a result of this increased population, that would give the folks there at the station an idea of what to start preparing for?
That is a really good question. And it is definitely, from a number standpoint, beyond me. However, I'm familiar enough with the way that things are calculated by the city administration, both within the Division of Fire and in the mayor's office, to where they utilize the numbers that are historically available. For example, as Jennifer said, using Station 5 and the number of runs that they were taking, and the areas in which they were traveling, as she said, anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes to get to their first response area. I am sure that existing numbers are available through the administration with the Division of Fire. And I do not have enough knowledge to even estimate if they have projections, and if so, who has those and how they came about.
And it would be tougher because you have that, forgive me, I can't remember what it's called, the terminology, but where, so on Station 35, because that was literally right around the corner where I lived, you had something with Jefferson Township with the station that was right on, I can't think of
Havens,
what,
Havens
yes.
Corners.
Yes. What's that called? That thing
We
that you get?
we have two different things. One's called automatic response and the other is called mutual aid.
That's it, the mutual aid. It's called something else sometimes too, but yeah, mutual aid. So, but before you guys came into the area, I know that Jefferson Township was hit really hard with responding to runs, because otherwise it took the amount of traffic that was on Broad Street, 75,000 cars every single day, to travel from Station 5 all the way up to the Wagner corridor was, you know, a normal car takes about a half an hour sometimes to get up that corridor, and the police had a very hard time traveling that as well. But that it would be hard, I think, very hard to find those statistics, because you've got that mutual aid agreement with the township who takes on some of the calls as well.
Well, I think that if you were going to confine to a projection based on the numbers, what we would look at is the number of runs that are within the city limits, and regardless of whether it would have been in battalion, well, I should say Station 5's area, or if it happened to be a run that, say, Medic 141, Jefferson Township took.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Uh-oh.
Even if they did not respond. So they still can get pretty good numbers.
Okay.
The more difficult question actually is the reverse of that. And that is when we respond automatic with Jefferson on a Jefferson run, or with West Licking on one of their medical or fire runs.
Okay.
And there's a report that comes out, I believe, every year from the Division of Fire. It would be good to start with that, and I could ask Assistant Director Stewart to provide that, and then you could use that as a way to maybe get some of your other questions answered, where they could go further with the numbers. So I'll follow up with that.
Yeah, Lynn, I think we have the last one that was given to us, but we don't, I don't know when the new one comes out. Does it come out like right when the budget, I can't remember when that comes out.
Pardon me. I think the last one we have is for the numbers for 2019, and that came out, I'm thinking it was towards the end of summer.
Okay.
So 2020 it will come out, I would estimate, you know, towards about a year from that point. So the end of summer this year.
Okay.
That might be a task that the Health and Wellness Committee could take on.
That would be great.
Okay.
Jeff, you don't need me anymore. I'm going to jump to Greater Hilltop.
You go ahead.
Tony,
we always need everybody.
We always need you, but you know, your absence, I can understand that.
We'll put your information. We'll put all your information up on the Facebook and websites. That way, if anybody has any further questions, we could go ahead and have them get a hold of you that way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on.
Jennifer,
Yes.
before you move on, just to say to Station 35, they absolutely were at our home within 5 minutes of request. And were very good in what they did. It was nice to see them that quick.
Thank you. That's what we're here for. And it's because of you, not because of me.
I understand. But
And it was a pleasure seeing you very briefly at Christmas time and dropping off some cookies to you guys, and just we didn't have a chance as a commission, unfortunately. Your open house was canceled right at the very beginning of COVID. But at some point when this is over, we would like to come back over, and since that is the newest state-of-the-art fire station, we would love to come through for a tour of it. All the commissioners, I'm sure.
Well, we would
Madam
love
Chair,
to have you.
before Bob leaves, Bob, can I have your last name so I can make sure I have that correctly in the minutes?
My last name is Carlisle, Carlisle.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And if I could, while I have your attention, Madam Chair and members of the commission, I'm the 3-unit officer in charge of Engine 35. Oftentimes you will speak to Captain Kent Miller, who's our house captain. He's not here tonight. His unit is 2-unit. So on behalf of the entire station, since Jennifer already mentioned it, they dropped off during Christmas a beautiful fire-related Christmas wreath. And that was the first Christmas decoration that we had received, and it is now stored and awaiting us to break it out next year. So we want to say thank you to all of you, because it was a beautiful gift. We don't need cookies because, well, we have a workout facility that we have to really take advantage of after you did that. So thank you for all your consideration.
You got to cook there anyway.
Nice. You've been very, very generous. And on behalf of Captain Miller, we want to say thanks. And I do want to give you an update if I can take just a moment. It is with regret that we weren't able to have our dedication ceremony. I don't know if that means that I get to go out there and grind the dedication plaque to change the month and year that we actually had the dedication, because it says March of 2020. But anyway, the house is doing very well. We have had little minor things that needed to be fixed or attended to, and our 1-year anniversary is coming up next month. So it doesn't seem like it, but we have been here for a year. And I can speak on behalf of all of the guys here, firemen and officers, is what a great house, what a great neighborhood. And if you get an opportunity to make it out this way, 711 North Wagner Road, it is your facility. And once this COVID relief is taken care of, and however it happens, whenever, we can't wait to have the open house and invite everyone in so that you can see the station. We received about 2 months ago a brand new medic, and so that unit has worked out tremendously. I hope that we don't ever have to come to your house, but if we do, it is state of the art. The final inspection for our new engine is going to take place next week. So we are hoping that not too far from that point, we will get it over to communications so that it can be outfitted and put into service here before spring. It takes some time to get through, but it's a tremendous piece of equipment, and we are looking forward to getting that. I'm not going to ruin everything for Captain Miller, but I will tell you that after quite a bit of work on our part, we have received approval for a station logo. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to let the captain tell you. But it has been approved, so that the city of Columbus finds that it was appropriate in all respects. And I think that it nicely honors the area in which we work. So I'm hoping that we are able to give you a colorized picture of it the next time we have a meeting.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, so we're real happy about it. Things are moving along well. And I would be remiss if I didn't say I got one safety item, and it's coming up here pretty soon with this cold weather. And I know people do it. I do it. And that is attached garages and cars. People will start the cars in the morning because they want to warm them up and get the engines warmed and get the inside warm. And a lot of times they forget to open up the door to air it out. But even if it is, that carbon monoxide buildup can actually take place on the inside of the vehicle. And CO is one of those chemicals that is without odor. So if you are going to take your car and start it in the morning, open the door, and if you would, just back it out a little bit and then let it sit. That way the exhaust is outside of the house and will not infiltrate the garage and then the interior of the home. That's, it's going to get real cold here, and we know that people want to do that. Yeah. Exterior is not bad. So, but the interior, if it's an attached garage, that can be a problem. Okay. Otherwise, just keep your smoke detectors and your CO detectors, keep the batteries good.
And I know I'd asked you to say something very briefly about there's in the past probably 10 years, there's been a good number of incidents that have occurred with cooking inside of the garage as well. And we've had numerous fires and whole homes go up, especially in that area because of that. And that's also of a concern, is to make sure and have your cooking devices outside of the garage.
Absolutely. It's best if you're going to cook outside that you don't do it within the garage. One, it's not vented at all. So you've got that CO coming off of your propane or off of natural gas or whatever it is that you're burning. And there's going to be CO that is created. So that's one negative. The other is most people, when they start to cook, they don't give it the proper surroundings, which is distance from that and anything nearby where that could catch. It's an especially big problem in the summertime because for some reason, a lot of people like to cook out in the garage. I don't mean outside the garage, I mean in the garage, which is surprising to me. I don't know that I would ever do that, but it does happen. So if you're going to cook in the garage, give yourself a barrier, an area of 4 or 5 feet in all directions, and keep children away, obviously, but be aware of CO. And if you're going to cook outside, just use good common sense. Keep the kids away. Make sure that your fittings are tight. Check your burners and before you start, because over time those things all wear out. So like we all do.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you making it to the meeting. So we
Jennifer,
look forward to seeing you next month.
Jennifer, one thing, the cooking inside the garage, what I've noticed around our area in Blacklick, part of it seems to be cultural. And I don't know how we address that by not, they don't want all the spice in the house, so they cook in the garage. So I don't know how we address that, but you're right, it's an issue.
And I think the best that we can do is just raise with them, at least from the division standpoint, raise with them the risks that go along with it. And if they insist, then let's just do it the best, safest way that we can if they're going to insist on doing it.
Is there information you can make available that we could put through next door?
I will check with our public relations people and see if they have anything at all that might assist in that.
All right.
And if, and I will make sure that I pass that along to the captain, and or Jennifer directly.
Thank you.
I
I think
have
it
a
was a year
suggestion.
ago, we had a really bad fire in Cedar Run where the whole house went up and the two houses on either side had fire damage due to that, but the whole house was a loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
A suggestion would also be, if you don't mind, Lieutenant Carlisle just mentioned about he may have some information. If we could contact some interpreters from the city and maybe interpret that into the cultural language in which Daryl was talking about, and use that as flyers, that would be a suggested idea.
Especially Nepalese.
And
Okay.
I've written that down, Daryl and Jean. I've put that down to check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions?
Happy you're there.
Yep. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice evening. Thank you for joining or allowing me to join your meeting.
Thank you. You're more
Thank
than welcome
you.
to log off if you want and enjoy your night.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moynihan, do you want to give
Yes.
a brief update?
Yes, I will be quick.
Thank you.
All right, so we continue to identify ways that the Far East Area Commission can get information out to the communities we represent. The Columbus City Attorney Robert Tobias has recommended that all Far East Area Commission news and updates come directly from one source so that all area commissioners, that means all area commissioners and committee members should refer everyone to our Facebook page and our website for all area commission related news and updates. So that's coming directly from the Columbus City Attorney.
And wait a minute, Daryl, did you hear that?
Yeah,
And
I did.
Larry, did you hear that? Because no more, his instructions are no more are we to, as a commission, I know in the past, if we've had a zoning or something come up that we've posted it on like Pickerington
Facebook.
pages and so forth, that is no more what he ideally would like to see.
So that includes anything that we have that's informational as well? That's what I'm.
Once it's posted on our Facebook page and our website, the Facebook page and the website can be shared for people to look at the information. But we have to direct everyone back to the Facebook page and website.
Can we put
Okay.
like zoning Z20-109 address, Chantry Drive, etc. Refer to the Area Commission website for further details.
Yes.
Yes, we
All
can
right.
do that.
Okay. Thank you. That was just our update for today from him.
Yes. So I went to the Building Your Brand Area Commission training. It was actually building your brand on social media. But it was interesting and I did pick up a few new things. Some ideas that we're working on. Trying to connect our Facebook page to our website so that the Facebook feed and updates will show directly on our website. But we're running into a formatting error and trying to tweak it to see if we can work around the error in the programming. And then possible survey on our website, something to consider in the future and in our Facebook feed. Ideas like what's most important to you. And, you know, one thing they brought up was like everyone's logos to get some perspective and feedback from the communities. Like, what do you think of our logo? Like, when you look at it, like, what comes to mind? Just kind of a curious thing to see if, you know, because I know when I look at ours, I see an E, which I think is kind of cool for East Side. So
I
think
like our logo.
I do. No, I'm not saying we had to change the logo. It was just kind of engaging the community
Yeah.
kind of thing. And, you know, just getting that feedback.
Okay.
When we do our postcards, we can actually create a specific link. I can do this through the website that we would put on the postcard only. I know we had talked about how do you keep track of how many people are actually connecting directly to you through the postcards. So we can actually create a specific link that only goes on the postcard. It's not shown anywhere else, so that when the individuals type in that link, it will tell us specifically this link received this many clicks. So that would be a way that we could, get an idea how the postcards are being received and how much foot traffic it's generated towards the website. If we have a post on our Facebook page, something to consider, or we want to put together a specific advertisement or use our, create the postcard or use our brochures or flyers, we can also create a Facebook boost. And that shows up as an advertisement. You can narrow it down by your audience. So we can say, like, within a specific area, we would like this to show up in people's news feeds. And so for like $10 a week budget, we can have 5 days reach an estimated 182 to 526 people per day.
Say that again.
So we can reach for 5 days, it just a budget of $10. We can reach an estimated 182 to 526 people per day.
Is that in our communities?
Well,
I'm sorry, that was glitchy. What did you say?
Okay, was that what you were talking about, creating that number of folks? Did that refer to your Facebook boost?
Yes.
Okay, that BOOST?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So it's something for us to consider, because that might actually end up being a more feasible, financially feasible option.
Can you put that in writing to us somehow so we can all see what you're talking about?
Yeah, here, let me do this.
This might be for another time or something for you to research, Summer. But like, what's the percentage of people, like, if you're talking the postcards versus Facebook boost, like, what's the probability? What's the greater probability of reaching people? Would it be the Facebook boost or would it be the postcards? And then you're relying solely on people, like, making sure that they're on Facebook to be able to,
Correct.
even get the
That's
boost.
the only downfall. So
Yeah.
that's the only downfall. And that's where maybe we want to consider doing the boost in addition to, or doing the boost until we know that there's additional funds. So it's an idea.
Okay.
Just for us to keep in mind. So I actually put the details in the chat for everyone.
Okay.
Okay. The other question is, Summer, are we thinking anything about using other platforms other than Facebook, since Facebook is starting to get a bad rep?
Okay, so that is something else that we had talked about. We as a commission, we can choose, they recommend like no more than 2 platforms, just because you're having to update so many different things. And right now we have the website, we have the Facebook account, and we have the city's.
That's 3.
Yeah, so the city has a new page for each area commission. So those are 3 different entities that we're having to update. So times do change, and we absolutely can add another platform, or something that we can try to do maybe is there are different programs that we can look at that, should we choose to go the route of adding an additional platform with the program, we put the information in and it pushes it to each of the platforms.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, that if we do decide that we're going to add something in addition to Facebook, that might be something that we want to look at.
Will you be having a plan or a suggestion as to what you feel we should go ahead and pursue? Will your committee be setting that up?
Absolutely can. The biggest thing in question right now, though, is budget. Once we know, like, I can say that, yeah, this is an estimated how much this is going to cost, or this an estimated. Want to have an idea as to which direction the commission wants to go.
And I suggested some are waiting until we hear back from Lynne, who's supposed to hear back in March, of whether or not we are getting our sign approved, or finally getting that sign from the city, because otherwise we've got $1,000 that we've allocated to this sign that we've been waiting on for probably almost like three years now to have put in. And that would make a very significant impact on the budget of what we can do or not do, depending on how that goes.
Correct.
I believe firmly that you will get your sign. Let me just put it that way.
Okay.
Double.
So, but we'll see in March what we're looking at budget wise. If it looks like the signs are going to go through and budget is a little bit more limited, then maybe we can look at the Facebook boost. If it looks like the sign isn't going to go through and we're going to have that extra money, then maybe we, look at putting that budget towards the postcards. Because obviously the whole reason for doing the postcards is to reach a demographic that isn't on social media.
That's true.
But it's going to depend on what the funds look like as to which direction we have the ability to go.
Okay. So we'll look at all that again in March then? Okay.
Yes, once we hear back on the signs, then if we as a commission can say that we would like to allocate this much towards just communication in general, then what I can do is I can say, okay, with this much money, these are our options. Which one do we want to do?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So hands are kind of tied, but it gives an idea of different options that are out there.
Okay.
Oh, and the last thing is that we do have the option. Should the area commission, we've been in the news a couple of times. We do have the option to create a YouTube channel if we wanted to link any of those broadcasts. But again, that would be, we still have the ability to upload everything onto the website without creating the YouTube channel. It's just a matter of finagling a couple of things to get it on there. So it's not a necessity, but it was an option.
Well, maybe taking small steps at the beginning, and what works, then if you feel you have time to go do further, might be a better choice.
So, but it gives everybody, a couple of ideas. Some of them we talked about during that meeting. Some of them, came after, but just options from the communication and outreach standpoint. That's all
Is the city website up?
Yeah, should be.
Yes.
Do we have a link on our website to it?
No, it works in the reverse, doesn't it?
Correct. Yes. It's basically if people search the city's database, then it'll lead them to that page. And basically all of the information that we have on that page is very basic. And we redirect everyone from that page to our website.
Okay. Well, I didn't know it was even up yet.
It is up. And then there's also, I guess technically that makes a fourth platform. The Department of Neighborhoods has a section on our commission that we have to watch that as well to make sure that everybody's information is updated on it.
Okay.
Wow.
So, and Lynn, I did look at that information earlier today, and unfortunately, no, it is not on the platform that we ourselves have the ability to edit. So it does have to go through the Department of Neighborhoods for them to make those changes.
Okay.
That was just on the email addresses, Lynn.
Yes.
Oh, shoot. Can I, I'm sorry, my daughter's coach is calling, and last time this happened, she got hit in the head 3 times with a ball, and I had to come pick her
Oh,
up
no.
immediately. And
Take
I've
that,
missed,
Jennifer. I can take
I've
over for
missed
you.
2 calls. Can you take over the remainder of the meeting? I'm sorry. So I could call.
Family comes first.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you,
No problem.
everybody.
No problem.
Let us know.
Okay,
I'm
thank
going to
you.
cut my evening short. I had my COVID shot today, so I'm running on fumes.